Hey everyone, so this is Unit 3, Lesson 2. Today's lesson is going to focus on the movement in ancient Egypt. So in the last lesson you learned about the geography of ancient Egypt and how it influenced where and how people lived. We learned how the Nile greatly influenced farming and people's movement and where people were settling. And we learned how the mountains and deserts created natural barriers that helped protect the people from outside land invasions. So today we are going to be looking at how the geography of Egypt influenced movement and how people influenced movement. So when we talk about movement, we are focusing on how goods, people, and ideas get from place to place. So we're looking at how both physical things, so people, goods, animals, etc., and non-physical things like ideas and concepts and laws and things like that move around and get from place to place and from person to person. We also look at how environmental things like the geography of an area and human things and creations influence how different things move around. So we're going to start off with the Nile. So the Nile River is going to have a huge impact on how items and people moved around. It was easier and faster for people to load up different types of boats with goods or with people and to travel by water than it was to travel by land. Because of this, the Nile River and boats became a main mode of transportation for people in Egypt. So it was kind of like our modern day highways. It was filled with boats, is how people mainly moved from place to place. The Egyptians created and used a variety of different boats in order to travel and to transport goods. So this included things like sailboats and cargo boats. So these boats had different parts to them to help them move along the Nile as best as they could. Because remember, the Nile runs from south to north, so it runs a little differently. So they needed different things to help them move along it. If they were traveling north, then they could go with a current, and it would move them along. If they were traveling south, they would use sails to gather wind to move against the current. And regardless, they typically had some kind of oar or different types of oars on the boats in order to help them move faster, whichever way they were going. So the different parts help them move people and goods faster and a little bit easier along the Nile. So transportation by boat was easier for the Egyptians because of their surrounding geography. Once people moved away from the Nile River region, they were in a very dry desert region or mountainous areas. So this geography is going to make it harder and more dangerous to travel by foot for long distances than it would to when they were using the water. So the Egyptians used chariots and carts for land travel, and this really helped because it helped them go faster. It helped them on the different terrains and things, and the different types of land that they had to travel over. And it was a lot easier than by walking on foot. But these regions were still hard to travel through, regardless of the different wheeled transportations that they had. So the ancient Egyptians also shared and moved ideas from place to place. So just like in Mesopotamia, the Egyptians are going to create their own written words and symbols to write with. So what the Egyptians used is known as hieroglyphs. So these are pictures that stand for different words or sounds. And the Egyptian hieroglyphics ended up having over 6,000 symbols to help people know what different things meant. So the hieroglyphs allowed the Egyptians to write down everything they may need, from records to stories to laws, anything. And this allowed them to share their ideas with one another because people could then read them and have them to know what things were saying. So the ancient Egyptians used their surroundings to help share and move ideas around. So like the Mesopotamians, the Egyptians carved their words and records into stone tablets, pillars, and walls to share messages for all to see. However, they also developed a paper-like material known as papyrus. So they used the papyrus plant, which is a reed-type plant that grows along the Nile, to create this paper material. They could write on the papyrus using different inks, and they created papyrus scrolls. And these scrolls were a whole lot easier and a lot lighter to carry around than stone tablets, which made it so much easier to share ideas and information and move these ideas from place to place. So the papyrus plant was actually super important in other ways too, because it helped them in making boats. Where wood was scarce in some areas, the papyrus plant was woven together to create different types of boats, especially in the beginning of the region and history with people settling in ancient Egypt. So this plant really helped people move both ideas around, but also physical items around. So just to recap, both the environment and human things influence how people move from place to place in ancient Egypt. For the environment, the Nile made it easy for water travel for both people and goods, and the desert and mountains made it difficult for people to travel on land. For human-made things, creating different boats really helped with the moving of goods and people from place to place. Carts and chariots made land travel a lot easier, and papyrus scrolls and hieroglyphics helped the people share ideas faster and move them faster from place to place.